Your brain was not broken by accident. It was engineered to break, not by circumstance, not by weakness, by design. Deliberate, profitable, and precise design. And understanding that distinction is the difference between a man who spends the rest of his life managing symptoms and a man who dismantles the system producing them. This is not about your phone. This is not about social media. This is about the oldest and most powerful motivational architecture in human biology. And what happens when that architecture gets redirected toward the cheapest possible version of every reward it was built to pursue. Your brain runs on dopamine, not in the way most people describe it. Dopamine is not a pleasure chemical. It is an anticipation chemical. It does not reward you for having things. It drives you toward pursuing them. This is a critical distinction that most conversations about dopamine completely miss. The dopamine system evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to motivate the pursuit of outcomes that required genuine effort. Food required strategy, patience, and physical endurance. Shelter required planning, skill, and sustained physical labor. Status required demonstrated competence over extended time. Connection required vulnerability, consistency, and real investment. The dopamine hit was the engine behind all of it. It made the pursuit feel worth the cost. It created the internal pressure that drove men to attempt difficult things before they had any guarantee of success. This architecture did not produce comfortable men. It produced capable ones. It built cities from open land. It drove men across unmarked oceans. It created every civilization and every structure of lasting human achievement because it made difficulty feel like the path to something real. And then something changed. Not gradually, with surgical precision. Modern technology did not invent a new reward system. It identified the exact neurological triggers that activate dopamine release, and engineered delivery mechanisms that bypass every natural barrier that previously made those rewards meaningful. The pursuit is gone. The effort is gone. The delay is gone. The uncertainty is gone. What remains is the chemical signature of reward without the substance that was supposed to follow it. A man scrolling through a feed of curated images and manufactured outrage is experiencing the neurological pattern of hunting without ever leaving the room, without ever catching anything, without ever building anything from what he found. The brain cannot distinguish between the chemical event and the real-world context that was supposed to produce it. So it accepts the simulation, and it asks for more. Here is where the damage actually begins. The brain is not a passive recipient of chemical signals. It is an adaptive system that continuously recalibrates its baseline based on the inputs it receives most frequently. When easy dopamine is available in unlimited supply, the brain does not maintain its previous standard. It adjusts downward. It recalibrates to treat the easy hit as the new normal. And once that recalibration occurs, hard things stop feeling rewarding. Not because they have become less valuable, because your brain's reward threshold has shifted above the level that difficult work can reach. The man who spends his mornings scrolling before attempting any meaningful work has already poisoned his neurological environment before the day has begun. His brain has been fed easy dopamine in its most receptive hours. It has recalibrated its baseline before 9 in the morning, and then he sits down to do something difficult. Something that requires sustained mental effort, something that will not produce a result for weeks or months. And his brain, which has just been flooded with effortless stimulation, registers the difficult work as neurologically insufficient, not as meaningful, not as rewarding, as punishment. This is not laziness. This is neurological consequence. The man has not lost his capability. He has anesthetized his access to it, and the anesthesia wears off slowly, much more slowly than most men expect. Here is what this costs beyond the obvious. Most conversations about dopamine addiction stop at productivity. They tell you that you are wasting time, that you could be more focused, that your attention span is shortened. These things are true. but they are surface-level consequences. The deeper cost is identity. When a man's brain is recalibrated toward easy reward, his relationship with difficulty changes permanently. He begins to avoid not just hard tasks, but hard decisions, hard conversations, hard truths about himself. The avoidance becomes total, because difficulty itself has become neurologically aversive, not just uncomfortable, neurologically indistinguishable from threat. His ambitions survive, but they migrate. They move from the territory of active pursuit into the territory of passive fantasy. He does not stop wanting the life he imagined. He simply stops being neurologically capable of tolerating the gap between where he is and where he needs to go. And so he closes that gap the only way his recalibrated brain knows how. He simulates the destination. He consumes content about the life he wants. He watches men who built what he imagines building. He surrounds himself with the aesthetic of the outcome without engaging with the process that produces it. And his brain rewards him for this, because it cannot tell the difference. This is the most precise description of where most men are living right now. Not in failure, in simulation, experiencing the neurological reward of a life they are not building, and wondering why the motivation to actually build it never quite arrives. Here is the neurological truth that changes everything. The brain that was recalibrated toward easy dopamine can be recalibrated again. The architecture is not permanently damaged. It is temporarily redirected, and redirection can be reversed. But not through motivation, not through inspiration, not through consuming more content about the problem. Through deliberate and uncomfortable deprivation. The recalibration requires removing the easy sources before replacing them with harder ones, not reducing, removing. The distance between the trigger and the response must be made physical, not psychological. Physical distance. The phone is not in the room, not on silent, not face down, not in a drawer across the room, out of the room entirely. Because the proximity of the trigger is enough to maintain the neurological pattern even in the absence of actual use. The recalibration also requires reintroducing effort-based reward before the easy dopamine is gone long enough to be missed. The body in physical effort. The mind in sustained complex thought. The hands in something being built. These activities will not feel rewarding immediately. They will feel insufficient. They will feel like the wrong choice. Like there is something more stimulating available, and you are choosing deprivation for no clear reason. This is the recalibration working. The discomfort you feel is not the signal to stop. It is the signal that the baseline is shifting. Most men stop here because the discomfort arrives before the reward does. And a brain recalibrated toward immediate reward has no tolerance for delayed return. This is the only wall that matters. Not discipline in the abstract, not willpower in the motivational sense. The specific ability to tolerate neurological discomfort long enough for the recalibration to complete. The men who get through that wall do not emerge more motivated. They emerge with a different nervous system, one that can tolerate difficulty again. One that registers sustained effort as meaningful rather than punishing. One that can feel the reward of building something that will not be finished today, or this week, or this month. Your brain was not broken by accident, but it will not fix itself by accident either. The recalibration is deliberate, uncomfortable, and entirely within your control. Master yourself. Command your life. Recalibrate everything.